That is a huge question with a 20-hour worth of answers. Over the years, I've come to believe from research that the really, parapsychology falls into two broad camps, basically the research. One is mind over matter, PK, psychokinesis. The other one is gathering information, ESP, generally speaking. In our lab, we've renamed that anomalous cognition. Why? Because we become aware of stuff, having a cognition, in ways we don't currently understand. And that seems to be a much better term for it. Okay, so of those two camps, I've really been focused on the information gathering. And in that, people understand there's telepathy and clairvoyance and precognition. My research has led me to believe with my colleagues that there is only one form that actually is real, and that's precognition. And if that were true, all the other data kind of fall in place. Why is that important? You're not going to make a better toothbrush. It has very little practical applications, but I'm a physicist, and as such, I'm interested in how the hell this world actually works. And so if people can gain information from non-inferential futures that you can't figure it out, that says a lot about current physics. We don't understand a big chunk about how this world works. I'll use a piece of jargon. It's macroscopic causality violation. What that actually means in English is things that only happen when things that cause them to happen first. If I have a pen in my hand, holding it over the table, it's not going to drop unless and until I open my fingers. Precognition suggests it might drop sometime before you open your fingers, and that's weird. And I'd love to understand that. And that is one of the reasons most physicists think this is crazy, for good reason. But the data are the data, and I'm data-driven, as most scientists are, and data leads theory. I mean, one of the big criticisms of parapsychology are from people who don't understand the history of science. Data always leads theory. Sometimes the other way around, but for the most part, data leads theory. You get a piece of data, oh, the old theory doesn't work anymore. We're going to toss it out and try something new. Well, we've been pushing our whole field collectively for 150 years. I've been pushing this and making slight progress. I'm supposed to be retired, but I'm working harder now than I ever was when I was working. Three things. I'm of an age where archiving is really important. The government paid all this money to do research, and a colleague and I are in the business of putting together an archive of all the government-paid research. It looks like it'll be 3 volumes of 800 pages each, all peer-reviewed, and the amount of work that was done will blow everybody apart. I mean, they have the part on psychokinesis, mind over matter, is 380 pages single-spaced, covering everything we'd done from 1974 to 1996, and everything in between. A lot of work. Same, you name the thing that we're interested in, we did that kind of level of work. So that's one aspect. But more importantly, hey look, if I take a drop of this wine, red, and I put it in the middle somehow magically into a still glass of water, and take a video of that, we all know what happens, right? The water turns slight red. Okay? And if I took a video of that and showed that to you backwards, you say, hey, wait a minute, you're showing me the damn video backwards. You'd know, because the pink wine would go a little drop in the middle. However, if you shrink down and look at the physics of what's going on, here's a wine molecule and a water molecule that come along and bounce off each other. And if I somehow could take a video of that and show it to you backwards, you couldn't tell. So at the microscopic level that causes these things to evolve, it goes forward and backward in time, and physics doesn't care what direction, you get the same result. But the cosmetic industry and all we humans wish that we could turn large-scale time to go backwards, right? We can't do that. And so the relationship between The microscopic world where time can go in both directions, and the everyday lived world where it really unfortunately is going in one direction, that connection is well understood. I'll say it in jargon and translate it. It's called the second law of thermodynamics. What that means is, for reasons, one of the most important laws in physics, when things evolve, they evolve to a greater and greater uncertainty. If I drop an egg off this table, we all know what happens. A nice, neat little egg gives it lots of pieces. And I can pick all those pieces and put it back on the table and shove it off and keep doing that. It'll never land as a full egg on the ground. You know, Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. And that is a statement of what's called the second law of thermodynamics, entropy. Well, we noticed years ago that remote viewing, or ESP, or anomalous cognition, works better when systems that you're trying to get by ESP go from an ordered state to totally disordered. We noticed that when we were targeted in the Cold War of what some underground nuclear tests in Russia, of course we all didn't know what we were being targeted against, and our people never missed that. I thought, well, there's a clue. Long story short, we found that there's a relationship between changes of this magical thing called entropy. Things evolve with more entropy, are easier to see with remote viewing. So we're now doing an experiment where we're testing that. Instead of using photographs, we're using natural sites here in the San Francisco Bay Area, and half the time someone is standing there in it, precognitively. They pick the after we do this, after we collect the data, they pick the site randomly. They don't know what we've said, of course. And half the time, my colleague will pour 3 liters of liquid nitrogen, liquid air, into a big bucket. And that's a big change of thermodynamic entropy. And I'm sort of hoping to say, well, maybe it's like you want to walk into a dark room and know what's there, turn on the flashlight and look around. This is kind of a psychic flashlight. We're halfway through the study, and it is working enormously well. Golf. And I used to run enormously. I was a jogger for years and years and years. Ruined my knees as a result of I was training on hills in San Francisco. Not a smart thing to do. So now I can play golf, and it's a sport you can do until you're 90, so that's fun. Yeah, don't. And I mean that sort of, and it's a problem. I hold a unique position in the field, and this isn't bragging, it's pathetic. I had a 22-year career where I was paid industrial scale wages with health benefits and retirement. I'm living off of that now. And I had no other job than research parapsychology. As far as I know, I'm the only person in all of parapsychology history that can make that claim. That is, in fact, a career. No one else has it. Everybody else has hobbies. You've got to do all kinds of stuff. You cannot make a living doing this work. I did, but most everybody cannot. So if someone were interested in the field, I would say, by all means, get a degree in something real and spend as much time as you can burrowing down to this area, because it's really interesting. And it's a sad commentary that some of the best people, I was just having dinner with somebody who is one of the most famous social psychologists there are, Darrell Bem, and he cannot get his replication study published. This guy can't. I have no choice. I can't get any of my stuff published in the mainstream journals either. So why would you want to do this? You can't feed your family. It's fun to do. There's no other game in town as far as I'm concerned, but it's a sad commentary on our culture. Not true. If you want to move to Russia, you could get a nice job. The Russians are more open to this than the Americans, and I really worried a lot about that. During the Cold War, we were all told if you had to invent an adjective for the word communist, one of the common ones that scared everybody was godless communists. And no one knew what a communist was, but everybody knew what godless was. And it turns out that wasn't even approximately true. It was certainly in the government, you know, they took down the churches and all that, but even the government officials, Stalin attended church during the Cold War, and this horrible guy. So they're very religiously oriented, but their religion, based in Eastern Orthodoxy and actually having its roots in, believe it or not, Tuvan shamanism. And if you're a shaman from Tuva, you brag about your psychic ability. So people in Russia were falling all over themselves to be part of this book that my colleagues in Russia and I put together. Here, I can't even mention the names of high-level U.S. military and public figures, Congress people, and what have you, even all the way to the West Wing of the White House, that will not allow me to use their name, even though most of them have retired. Because like when Nancy Reagan, President Reagan's wife, said, oh, she was interested in astrology, her name was dragged through the mud by the crazies. So that's an interesting problem here in this country. Oh, what a clever question that is. Wow. Isn't often you can catch me off garbage. You got me on that one. Oh, why the hell should any of this matter? It's a small effect. What good is it? And almost nobody asks that question because, you know, they're more interested in the woo-woo aspect or the fighting with skeptics and all that kind of stuff and the details of the protocol. Well, let's just assume it's all real. Who cares? It's a very slight effect. I can go on for hours as to why it's important. There's an academic reason. Well, we want to figure out how the world works, and some of the most important things about how the world works are minuscule, much smaller than the stuff we're working at. More importantly, I think it is involved in our culture and the way we humans interact with each other in some very important ways. Like if I were to guess 50 years from now, out of all the stuff that you're going to hear at this conference, maybe the only thing that will happen is what is loosely here called experimenter psi. And it's going to sound really weird, but wishing makes it so. And if that's true, in all the studies, whether you're a psychologist or a physiologist or any kind of science or a sociologist, we're using statistics using statistical inference to come to some conclusion. The door is at least slightly open that you get the answer you want, not because that's what's actually happening, but you make decisions with your own subtle psi to make it look like it's happening when it isn't. And I can make that really clear. Suppose I have a really fair coin flipper. It's 50-50. It's going to land heads or tails, and that's a fair coin. And I flip it 10,000 times, and every time it lands heads or tails, I write H, T, 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 H, T, long piece of paper down the corridor. Now I give you a pencil, and I say, walk along here using your eyes, and pick a spot, draw a line so the next 100 flips has too many heads in it. You could do that by the nature of random. What this suggests is that people do that psychically, even below their level of conscious awareness. It looks like the coin's not fair, but it actually is. And all you've done is pick out that area where it was just by random chance deviant in the direction you want, and you start counting at that point. That, I think, is the most important reason. So I asked my question and I answered. Boy, what a deal.